Hi. Now, I know I might be a little late to this party, but last August, filmmaker M. Night Shyamalan confirmed he is working on a sequel to his 2010 hit, The Last Airbender. And I just found this out a few days ago from an article back then. So I gotta say, I'm so excited. I want production to begin now, and hopefully this video can help with it. But let me tell you that this movie is a sour subject for me. Look, I'm proud to say that The Last Airbender is one of my all-time favorite films. I gave it an A+ plus on my website and have seen it about 6 times. If you've seen my Nickelodeon movies video, you know this already, and if you've seen my favorite TV show video, you know that I think Avatar The Last Airbender is my favorite cartoon of all time. Basically, I love everything Airbender, but apparently the movie got abysmal reviews and Shyamalan's sequel has been delayed to the point where it hasn't even happened yet, and I can't even look at it on Rotten Tomatoes without clenching my fists, because I think the reviews have been too biased. Of course I do, I gave it an A+. Plus. If I gave something like American Sniper an F, then the majority, based on Rotten Tomatoes, would obviously disagree with me, but it's only the opinion. Now, I'm all for your own opinion. I'm the critic who agrees with the tomato meter the least. I love personal opinions. If you loved or hated this movie, that's your right. Now, if you want to go straight to the part where I talk about what the sequel could be like, you can skip over to this part, but anyway, I'm continuing now. So, look, I love it when someone has a personal opinion, but when those personal opinions canceled a production of a sequel to a great movie, I feel, I can't help but, as a human, get a little annoyed, even a little aggravated sometimes. Now, here's how I work. One of my least favorite movies of last year was 50 Shades of Grey, and the next movie is due for next year, and I'm glad they're making it as they wanted. Why? It's what the filmmaker wants to do, and it's their job. It's also the main story of 50 Shades of Grey, of the trilogy, so it makes sense to finish it up, even if it got negative reviews the first time. Sequels also give you a chance to see what could be improved for the fans and then do it. One of the main thoughts I have around this is the new Fantastic Four movie. Thankfully, plans for a sequel have been scrapped, people have said. I say different. Now, I actually gave the movie thumbs down on my website, but I think had a sequel been made, so much more could have been done, which I think was Josh Trank's intention. The Last Airbender's long sequel cancellation actually made me question the idea of actual criticism. If I don't like a book, that doesn't mean the author should lose all hope. But the main three reasons I see that might be why the film was bashed, I think are not quite right for criticizing. One, people have said that it's dissimilar to the cartoon. Something I love about the movie is its length of just over 100 minutes. Most blockbuster movies are over 2 hours, and I usually prefer it when movies are shorter. They're a bit easier to review that way and don't take up as much of my time. I love movies, just sometimes I have to be careful. Not only that, but for this one, I could have felt it could have gone on for another hour. And a lot happened in the first season of the cartoon, so it was inevitable Shyamalan couldn't put in everything, but he got all of the important parts with special effects that look extremely realistic, with all the bending and everything, which brings us to number two, name pronunciation. I was a little surprised when they changed how you say Aang's name, but then I looked it up and it's actually the right way to say the name in real life. And upon seeing the film, I think Noah Ringer looks like an Aang to me. You know, he did look like Aang in from the live action cartoon. He was perfectly cast. It's just in the transition to live action, I felt Aang was a bit better for him. And three, humor. Now look, I think the cartoon is hilarious. I love the cartoon Sokka. I love every single joke. I don't think a single episode went by where I didn't laugh out loud. It's true, there's not really humor in this movie, but let me explain why I admired that choice. Cartoons are supposed to be funny. And let's look at Aang's or Aang's situation in both versions. He finds out of the blue that he's been under the ice for almost 100 years, and that it's his fault the Fire Nation were able to take over the world and kill millions of people, including his friends and airbending teacher Monkey Yatso. When you have 7 hours of content in the cartoon, it's good not to dwell on this for too long, which the cartoon doesn't, but when you're with these characters for only 100 minutes, this strategy doesn't really work because it that would be like 10 or 20 minutes of grieving, and then all of a sudden it's back to the humor. I felt that with all of the seriousness it shows more in live action, the fact that it's not really a cartoon anymore, I think that not really having much of a sense of humor was just appropriate for the tone that he was trying to do. What Shyamalan does here is add the thought of a huge conscience throughout the whole movie, therefore giving us the correct amount of time for Ong to dwell. I know that everyone has their own opinion. It's just for The Last Airbender, I felt it's been an overbashed movie, so I had to clarify all of that. Now that that's out of the way, how do I think the second movie will go down? Well, let's think about the turn of events in the second season. Yes, there are spoilers in this list. So, okay. The group leaves the Water Tribe. Zuko and Iroh are declared criminals. Aang gets into the Avatar state but quickly quits lessons. The group meets Toph and they practice earthbending. The gang find out about a solar eclipse in a few months from the Great Library. Appa gets taken. The gang successfully gets to Ba Sing Se, and so do Zuko and Iroh. In Ba Sing Se, something's really wrong. Zuko frees Appa, who feels confusion. Appa reunites with the gang. They tell the Earth King, who's oblivious to the Fire Nation War, what he's been missing out on. Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee make it into the city and trap Zuko and Katara. Well, I think that's enough for now. So Shyamalan handled the events from book one really well, so how is he going to handle the events this time, I think? Well, for one, Aang will probably mention how the dragon spirit told him in the last film how knowledge was stolen from the great library of Zozen's comet. I forget if it happened the same way in the cartoon, but Zhao mentions in the movie how the scroll he has indicated the location of the moon spirit and maybe a few hints about the eclipse. Maybe there will be a heist of some sort in the movie from Aang, Katara, and Sokka and Toph, if they meet Toph first. And you know how Aang struggled with his waterbending a little because of his grief? Or excelled too much because of his grief? As is mentioned in the cartoon, Earth is the opposite of air, so the movie might take its time with Aang's earthbending skills. You know what, just whether I say Aang or Aang in this case, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna pick whichever one comes out of my head as I read the lines that I have right here. Um, there's also the question of Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee. Azula will obviously be in the movie, but I can't say when she'll appear. If I'm not mistaken, the first time she meets the gang is in Omashu in the cartoon, after the all-night chase episode. If Shyamalan will include Mai and Ty Lee and possibly bring out Suki now that Yue has passed is beyond me, but I hope he hurries up, so we'll see. Also, while losing Appa is a very dramatic section of the cartoon and the drill makes for one of my favorite episodes, I don't know if Shyamalan will have time. However, the most important parts of the cartoon are recruit Toph, learn earthbending, make it to an unconquered Ba Sing Se, all hell breaks loose. Well, either way, if Shyamalan follows up on his promise, then I'm absolutely stoked for the next two chapters. And I'll leave this video with two things. One, Shyamalan said the second movie would be darker. What do you think this means? I hope we can find out. And two, I hope you enjoyed the video as much fun as it was to make it. Really, bring on book two.